students, welcome to a brand new lecture of the topic human nutrition. So in the last video we have seen about the histology of stomach. So it's time to move ahead and start with the next part of the alimentary canal, that is the small intestines. Now looking at the diagram what we have drawn over here. So I'll just draw the stomach and small intestines part. Now see now the stomach ends at the pyloric sphincter. So there is a C-shape part of the small intestine that we call it as duodenum. Later on it is heavily coiled part. Now it is divided into three sections. Okay? It is divided into three sections based on their work they perform. So if we draw these intestines, they go somewhat like this, and then this opens up into the large intestine. So this later on opens up into the large intestine. Now distinctively, if you just see the small intestine, there is no clear demarcation. It's a demarcation made by the scientists, obviously, for our convenience. So the first 25 centimeter part of the small intestines is known as duodenum. This is roughly 25 centimeter long. So this is hardly 25 centimeter long. Then the next part is this part, this middle part, that is the jejunum. That is the jejunum, which almost is 2.5 meters long. The entire small intestine, the length is somewhat 6 to 6.5 meters. Okay? So the remaining 3.5 part is the ileum. Okay? The last part is the ileum, which is roughly 3.5 meter. So if you add this 6 meter 0.25, that is the total length of the small intestine. Now the actual digestion process takes place over here. Stomach, yes, it makes the food like paste like and make it easy to digest, but all the major enzymes are released into the small intestines by the pancreas and by the small intestine itself. Now before it reaches the main jejunum part, there is some secretions which takes place. So we'll look into that in the physiology part, okay, how it works and all. Here we are going to see just the anatomy. So if you see the width, it is based on the width, it is called as small intestine because the width is small, and the large intestine is called so because of again the width. Here the width of the intestine is large and that is small. That's why it's not on the length, it's on the width of the organ. So this tube-like highly coiled structure is the small intestine, divided into three parts. Long muscular tube. So small intestine is nothing but this is long muscular highly coiled. Okay, in our body it is highly coiled because in that small space of the abdominal cavity it has been coiled inside. So it is a highly coiled muscular tube, okay, which is roughly 6 meters long. ठीक है, पूरा small intestine देख लो तो वो 6 meters long and around about 6 meter long, cross 2.5 centimeter broad. So जो उसकी width है वो 2.5 centimeters की, मतलब एक उंगली जितनी अगर हम बात करें, so roughly the thickness of a thumb बोल सकते हो, लगभग ये 2.5 सेंटीमीटर 2.5 सेंटीमीटर तक का आता है. So the thickness is very small but the length is large. Now again the main digestion takes place over here. So we will like to as I said, it is basically divided into three parts. The duodenum, the proximal part which joins the stomach, or rather which opens in the stomach, or rather stomach opens into the duodenum. That would be the much better way to describe it. Stomach opens up into this, which is duodenum, which is 25 centimeter long, a C shape. That is very much important because what happens is the hepatic duct means the duct which comes from liver, and the pancreatic duct merge over here and they collectively open over here. And there is also a sphincter known as sphincter of Oddi, and with the help of that sphincter the bile secretion and the pancreatic secretion are introduced inside the small intestine for digestion of food. So how it is, so we'll look it into when we see the accessory glands, liver and pancreas. So we'll see that section in detail because it has 2-3 MCQs related with that. So we'll see that. So the secretions are poured into the duodenum, and later on in the remaining 6 meter part the entire digestion process takes place. Mainly digestion occurs in ileum, and in the latter part 3.5 meter absorption of nutrients takes place. So we have studied the process of nutrition. First is ingestion, second is digestion, third is absorption. So that's a very much important part. And the third section, that is the ileum, that is the main section for absorption of nutrients, because still here majority of the things get digested and the absorption part is remained till this section of ileum. And that ileum opens up into the cecum, which is a broad part of large intestine. So this junction is known as ileocecal valve. So that junction, it acts like an opening. So the junction where they both meet is known as ileocecal junction or ileocecal valve to control the flow inside the cecum. So this is the what you can say, the external part of the externally how intestines look. Now let's see its histology. Okay, in your textbook the histology is given as common for both stomach and intestine. I have described it separately. I am describing it separately. So let's look at the intestine. The three parts, as I mentioned, is ileum, jejunum, which is somewhat 2.5 meter. Okay, this is centimeter, this is meter, and the last one is ileum, which is 3.5 meter long region. Okay, which opens into the cecum. Now, if I draw the cross section of intestines, even intestine internally is heavily folded. Means if I draw that tube of intestine, so it also has that wall and it is highly coiled inside. Intestines internally, if you see, it is made up of highly coiled structures like this. So what happens if means when food enters in it, it stretches and almost the surface area is equivalent to almost 18 meters. Means the length of the intestine is 6 meters, but it looks like the food has to travel 18-meter long tunnel, because this means villi, these folds, finger-like structures are known as villi, which I will be drawing shortly over here. These villi help to increase the surface area and they help in absorption. Again, I am going from outside to inside the cross section with the cross section. So the outermost layer is the serosa. As I already mentioned in my last video, in the stomach part also, this is made up of collagen. So it provides that rigidity, shape, support to the organ. So it is made up of white connective tissue, that is mostly collagen. Next, it also has submuscularis. Matlab even the 4 distinct layers from outside to inside: serosa, submuscularis, submucosa and mucosa. These layers are fixed. But in case of what you can say intestines, there are only 2 layers of muscles. So one obviously is the longitudinal muscle. So longitudinal means like this, straight. So these are longitudinal muscles, find place over there. And the second one is the circular muscles. Okay, next one is the circular muscles, and this circular muscles helps in contraction and relaxation. So these are smooth muscles. Okay, these are involuntary muscles and they both contribute. This is circular, inner is circular, outer is longitudinal. ठीक है. So this region is known as submuscularis because it is made up of muscles. So it is called as submuscularis, including these two. Now this one is interesting. Now this region has not a clear demarcation, but this is submucosa. This is submucosa, and the name itself gives you the meaning. Sub means below mucosa layer, and the mucosa layer is actually thrown into finger-like projections, which I am drawing. These are the villi. These finger-like projections are known as villi. Then actually the submucosa layer is rich with few glands. Okay, these are known as Brunner's gland. Okay, these are known as the Brunner's gland, which is a potential MCQ. ये काफी बार MCQs में आके गया है. So basically these are the Brunner's gland, and obviously this is the tissue. It also has the nerves, arteries, veins in that section, and between the two villi there's like crack-like thing, means these are crypts, okay, which almost joins to those Brunner's gland nearby. Again, the villus is lined by columnar epithelium. It is lined by columnar epithelial, but they don't secrete anything. Means the enzymes वगैरह जो secretion है वो उनका काम नहीं है. अब ये villi बहुत unique होते हैं because if they are straightened, they increase the surface area of intestine almost 3 times. That's why I said that the 6-meter long tunnel looks like it's an 18-meter long tunnel. Okay, these are Brunner's gland which are present over here. The main function of Brunner's gland is to secrete the mucus. So इनका काम क्या है? ये release क्या करेंगे? Mucus. So they will release mucus inside the intestines for smooth movement of the food throughout the intestines. So that's the main thing. These are known as crypts. Crypts means दरारें. ठीक है? These are what you can say. हिंदी में दरारें बोलते हैं, या हम उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Cracks. You can say crypts of Liverpool. Obviously, the scientist who discovered it. That's why it's known as crypts of Liverpool, and these are endocrine. These will release the necessary enzymes and the intestinal juice that is needed, and that intestinal juice is known as succus entericus. That intestinal juice is known as succus entericus. E चाहिए, ठीक है? Succus entericus वो juice, and that contains all the digestive enzymes. So these crypts of Liverpools, they release the digestive enzymes and plus the mucus inside the this layer. मतलब they release in the lumen. The opening inside the intestine is known as lumen. Now getting over to this is how it shows is it also has its own blood supply. It also has its own. It has a special. These are the lymphatic vessels. We also have lymph system. So a lymph vessel is present right at the center part of villi. Every villus has this what you can say lymphatic vessel to it. Then around that what you can say is which goes is the arteries, and then these arteries turn up to form veins. So the internal part of villi is richly supplied by the blood vessels. So this artery will go over here and it will form network over there, and that capillary network will form veins, venules, and this will reach the other side. Again, these capillaries will be formed to form a network, which will then revert back to form veins. So in this way, arteries and vein supply you will find in the intestine, and that comes from the mucosa layer. So these are villi. We call them microvilli sometime, or villi simply. So these are finger-like projections which we can find inside the intestines. Now what they will do is these Brunner glands will release mucus which will lubricate from inside, and they release an alkaline secretion known as succus entericus, which has all the carbohydrate digesting enzymes, some proteolytic enzymes, majority of the enzymes but come from the pancreas. But intestine has its own secretion for digestion of various substances. We'll look those in detail in our physiology part, how it works. So what are the secretions वगैरह. Basically तो मैंने लिखा है कि Brunner mucus है and this release the enzymes, but which enzymes we'll see in the physiology part. Hope so. Intestine का cross section समझा है. Outermost serosa, then submucosa, then submuscularis, then submucosa, and this upper part is called as the mucosa. This finger-like structure is known as mucosa. Clear है? So इस तरीके से ये खाना, तो खाना यहाँ पे डाइजेस्ट होगा, जैसे न्यूट्रिएंट्स बनेंगे ये कैपिलरीज में एब्जॉर्ब हो जाएंगे. एक चीज, ये जो बीच में है इन्हें हम कहते हैं लिम्फ वेसल, जो मैंने बताए थे, हम इन्हें कहते हैं लैक्टियल्स. इनका काम है फैट एब्जॉर्प्शन. देखो फैट मॉलिक्यूल्स फैटी, जब वो डाइजेस्ट हो गए इनटू फैटी एसिड्स एंड ग्लिसरॉल, वो उनकी पार्टिकल साइज इतनी बड़ी होती है कि वो कैपिलरीज में घुस नहीं सकते फैट मॉलिक्यूल्स, तो वो एब्जॉर्ब करने के लिए लैक्टियल्स होते हैं. और अल्टीमेटली ये लैक्टियल्स किसी ना किसी वेन को जाके मिल जाएंगे. लिम्फ वेसल्स अल्टीमेटली कोई बड़ी वेन को ऐड होते हैं, तो इनडायरेक्टली वो फैट सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम में ही आएगा. सो लैक्टियल्स ये स्पेशल वेसल्स होते हैं फॉर एब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ व्हाट यू कैन से फैट्स. दूसरी तो आर्टरी है, जो अभी वहां पे कैपिलरी नेटवर्क बनाई है, जो इंटेस्टिनल आर्टरी जिसे अपन मेसेंट्रिक आर्टरी के नाम से जानते हैं, एंड फिर वो कैपिलरी होने के बाद वेन्यूल्स बन के रिटर्न आ जाएगी. सो आर्टरीज वेन्स में क्या होगा, डायरेक्टली खाना जो डाइजेस्ट हुआ है वो ये कॉलमनर सेल एब्जॉर्ब करके तुरंत आर्टरीज और वेन्स में डाल देगी. फैट्स होंगे वो लैक्टियल्स से खींच लिए जाएंगे, बाद में उन्हें सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम में ऐड किया जाएगा. सो इंटेस्टाइन प्लेज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन एब्जॉर्प्शन, खास करके ये लास्ट वाला पार्ट, लास्ट का 3.5 मीटर का हिस्सा ये इन विलस से भरा हुआ रहता है. ठीक है, बिकॉज मैंने बताया स्टार्टिंग में डाइजेशन होता है खाने का, यहाँ तक 2-1 मीटर तक ट्रैवल कर जब तक खाना था तब तक मेजोरिटी खाना डाइजेस्ट हो चुका होता है. तो ये वाले सेक्शन का काम सिर्फ एब्जॉर्प्शन है. यहाँ भी एब्जॉर्प्शन होता है, पर जो स्टमक से खाना डाइजेस्ट हो चुका है ना, अभी जल्दी से डाइजेस्ट हो गया रहेगा जब तक यह है. सो इन दो जगहों पे मैक्सिमम एब्जॉर्प्शन का काम होता है. एंड दिस इज हाउ इंटेस्टाइन इंटरनली लुक्स. ठीक है, सो द लास्ट पार्ट ये तो हो गया इंटेस्टाइन्स के बारे में. डिटेल इंफॉर्मेशन हम इंटेस्टाइन की फिजियोलॉजी में पढ़ेंगे व्हेन वी विल सी दैट. द लास्ट सेक्शन इज द लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन्स. तो मैंने बताया था द स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन ओपन्स विद द लार्ज विद द हेल्प ऑफ इलियोसिकल वाल्व. ठीक है, इलियोसिकल वाल्व से वो एंट्री करता है. एंड लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन का जो ब्रॉड सेक्शन है उसे हम सीकम कहते हैं. नॉर्मली दिस इज ब्रॉड सेक्शन ऑफ लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन्स. ठीक है, देन इसके अंदर क्या होते हैं, सिम्बायोटिक बैक्टीरियाज होते हैं. सिम्बायोटिक बैक्टीरियाज जो नेचुरली, जो अभी खाना जो स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन से पूरे न्यूट्रिएंट्स निकल चुके हैं, अब इनके ऊपर ये बैक्टीरियाज प्रोसेस करते हैं और उसे फर्मेंट करते हैं, तब जाके उनसे मिनरल्स और विटामिन्स निकलते हैं. हम पढ़ेंगे फिजियोलॉजी में कोई एंजाइम नहीं है जो विटामिन्स या मिनरल्स के लिए डिजाइन होता है. तो विटामिन्स और मिनरल्स सबसे आखिर में रिलीज होते हैं खाने से, एंड दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ दिस सिम्बायोटिक बैक्टीरियाज. तो ये बैक्टीरियाज बुरे नहीं है, बट ये अगर इनका नंबर बढ़ गया and then it they cause issues. तो ये सिम्बायोटिक बैक्टीरियाज है जो एक्चुअली अच्छे हैं हमारे लिए, और इसी से तो गैसेस बनते हैं. इसलिए सबको गैस होता ही है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं, किसी ऐसा कोई बंदा नहीं है जिसको गैस होता नहीं है. सिंपली बिकॉज वो डिपेंड करता है तुम खाना कौन सा खाते हो. अगर तुमने ऐसे फूड स्टफ्स खाए which will generate more gases, so you'll have bloating and gases trouble. रेगुलरली उसमें एक बैलेंस होना चाहिए. ठीक है, सो सिम्बायोटिक बैक्टीरियाज वहां हार्बर करते हैं. एक और है सीकम से रिलेटेड है अपेंडिक्स. सीकम से रिलेटेड है अपेंडिक्स. वैसे तो ये वेस्टिजियल है अपने में. वेस्टिजियल का मतलब क्या, नॉन फंक्शनल. बट इन हर्बीवोर्स, इन हर्बीवोरस की अगर बात करूं, ये फंक्शनल है एंड उल्टा ज्यादा डेवलप्ड है बिकॉज इट रिलीजेज एन एंजाइम सेल्यूलेज, इसलिए ये एनिमल्स घास फूस पचा सकते हैं। तो जो हर्बीवोर्स एनिमल है जनरली वो सेल्यूलेज रिलीज करते हैं, इंसान वो नहीं कर सकता, वेस्टिजियल है, अपने में काम नहीं करता, एंड इसलिए अपेंडिक्स उसको हम वर्मी फॉर्म अपेंडिक्स कीड़े जैसा दिखता है, इसलिए हम उसे वैसा बोलते हैं। रही बात लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन्स की, तो लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन 3 हाफ्स में दिखता है। लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन को क्यों लार्ज बोलते हैं? बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स विड्थ, है तो वो 1.5 मीटर लंबा ही, लॉन्ग लेंथ वाइज 1.5 मीटर लंबा है, बट विड्थ में काफी ब्रॉड है। तो ये 3 सेक्शंस में होता है, ऊपर असेंडिंग कोलॉन, देन ट्रांसवर्स कोलॉन, इसके 3 पार्ट्स, एंड लास्ट वाला डिसेंडिंग कोलॉन। ठीक है, तो ऐसे उसके 3 रीजन्स हमें देखने को मिलते हैं, जो फाइनली खुलता है इन द रेक्टम, जहां पे टेम्पररीली इट्स अ मस्कुलर पाउच जिसके अंदर जो अनडाइजेस्टेड फूड रखा जाता है, फिर जैसे तुम्हें मौका मिले टॉयलेट जाओ, खाली करके आओ। सो दिस इज हाउ वी वर्क, एंड दैट इज रिलीज्ड थ्रू एनस, that fecal matter, and that process we know is known as egestion, that is not excretion. Removal of the undigested waste from the anus is known as egestion. So large intestine का भी जो क्रॉस सेक्शन देखोगे सेम एज स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन, सिर्फ जो विलाइस की फ्रीक्वेंसी है वो कम होती है, मतलब इनमें विलाइस बहुत ज्यादा हेवीली रहते हैं, इनमें सेम स्ट्रक्चर है। लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन का इंटरनल स्ट्रक्चर में कोई डिफरेंस नहीं है, फर्क सिर्फ इतना है कि विलाइस की संख्या कम होती है, क्योंकि इधर से जो एब्जॉर्प्शन होने वाली चीज है वो पानी, विटामिन और मिनरल्स, तो सबसे ज्यादा इन चीजों का एब्जॉर्प्शन लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन करता है, जो कि मिलेंगे आफ्टर फर्मेंटेशन बाय द बैक्टीरिया। मतलब पानी तो ठीक है, पानी तो फूड से जितना पानी होगा वो खींच लिया जाएगा, बट बाकी जो है विटामिन और मिनरल्स वो बैक्टीरिया की देन है। अगर ये बैक्टीरिया, मतलब ये बैक्टीरिया का जो क्या बोल सकते हैं, सिम्बायोटिक बैक्टीरिया, अगर इनका नंबर बॉडी में अल्टर होता है तो अगेन इट कैन कॉज डाइजेस्टिव इश्यूज, इट इंक्रीजेस, ये इंटेस्टिनल प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट कर सकता है। कम हो गए तो भी नुकसान है अपने लिए, देन विल बी डेफिशिएंट ऑफ विटामिन्स एंड मिनरल्स, सो वो भी एक लक्षण देखने को मिलता है। सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट द एनाटॉमी ऑफ द एलिमेंट्री कैनाल। नेक्स्ट सेशन में हम लोग लिवर देखेंगे, एक ही है, बड़ा है, डिटेल में जाएंगे, एंड फिर पैनक्रियाज ऐसे करके हम लोग खत्म करेंगे। So guys, hope so you love this lecture. So hit the bell icon for further notification, share it and subscribe it. Thank you.